it's me, Cat, the black cat, and now we're on my phone because my computer blue screened again like it did last week. So, what we are working on is we are separating out where these wefts are going to go. So I'm using some bobby pins, as many as I can find around my room, I guess, because I somehow misplaced the container. I'm going to be using these back clips as well. And luckily, this wig isn't too long, so there's not too much we have to hold back. Okay, here's another section we're doing here. Alright, making our way down. So I've come across like this. It might be a little bit hard to see with the white balance there. And then now I'm going to start coming down where it's down the back of the hair. Please excuse me as I bang this all over my chair, even though I don't have to because I can just turn this head freely. Alright, so next bobby pin going in. Using the comb to separate out the hair. I'm going to try to pull a little bit more hair into this particular bobby pin, only because it's basically my last one. I really don't want to have to just start taking them out of my hairstyle right now, so I'm just kind of trying to do best I can here. Alright, and again, we're just slowly working our way down, and I think we are going to hit the bottom of the wig here fairly soon. I think now it's just time for me to start holding this hair out of the way, this stuff over here. Alright, so we'll get to that a little bit more later, because the front and the side of the wig are what people are going to see more, so that's what matters. Okay, so next, what we need to do is decide how much of this do we want to use. So looking at this wig, just going from back to front, I would say we need just about this much. So I know everything is going just as planned, right? We are going to cut this, but we need to be careful because when we cut it, we're going to cut apart tiny little hairs also. Alright, so I'm just looking at the way this is sewn, and I'm just trying to get in between those hairs best I can. Alright, so we've cut our first weft, and this might not be a one weft job. I think one weft might be a little bit too thin, so we might be going in with a second. So give me just a second. We are going to comb this weft because it did get a little bit tangled. And what I'm going to do is I am going to cut a second one. And I'm not just cutting a second one to make this area thicker. I'm cutting a second one because the other side also needs the wefts. So I am lining up, I'm going to turn this down, lining up these wefts, and I am going to just snip this right here. Okay, so that's our second one. So I'm going to set that one aside so that I have it for the right side of the wig. Alright, and if you do want to chat with me and you're viewing this from the J Fashion On Demand channel, you will need to come to my channel directly because otherwise the messages won't show up in my chat, unfortunately. Alright, so we're matching this up one more time. We're going to cut this, so now we are at 3 pieces, which are the length that we need. And we're going to need 1 more because we need to double it up on both sides at least. I'm thinking I might be able to get triple out of this because as you can see, it's still very, very long. You can basically make a grass skirt out of it. So I'm just going like this, sliding it up 1 more time. So there's 2 over there. This is going to be 2 here. And we're going to see if we can get a 3rd out of it. Okay, that cut didn't quite go as planned, but that one did. Okay, so now there's 3 for the right side, and I think I can get 2 more out of here so that we can have 3 on the left as well. So again, lining up these pieces between those hairs and snipping very carefully. Okay, and this should be our last cut here, and all this extra I'm going to hold on to because, you know, I might have another project where I need this color, or I could just make, I don't know, like a little clip-in extension out of it with some clips. So that's other things you can do with these kind of wefts. All right, so that's it, all done. I'm putting my scraps aside, whoosh, onto the bed, which is to my left. Okay, so now I have 2 pieces and a 3rd piece. So this is the point where I'm going to turn my camera downwards so that you guys can see better what I am doing, hopefully. So if you can give me a second, I might need to lower this. Just a hair here. Okay, so here's our setup. I'm gonna try, can we get a little bit downwards more? No, not really. All right, that's fine. So I'm gonna first line up all 3 of these wefts. 1, 2, 3. You can see them there. I'm gonna line them up, and I'm going to get I have a thick sewing needle, but you can do it with any size needle. I just happen to have this one out, and it's good for me because my eyes are bad. You can see it on my black skirt. And we are going to whip stitch these together, and that's going to make our life easier farther down the road. Now, I am using a repair kit for my thread because I don't have red thread. So I'm just going to take a pretty decent length of this. And what we're going to do is we're going to whip these together, but also tie them, if that makes any sense. So I'm going to start with like a pretty good length. And I'm just going to snip this. Now we're going to thread the needle. And I think this is one of those rare instances where I will tie this off because I'm not really going through any fabric, so it's not going to cause any big holes to form. And this thread is really fine. I don't want to lose it in the hair because that would kind of be a nightmare. So I'm just tying this on to the needle. Not terribly tightly, but enough so I don't lose it. Okay, and off we go. So again, here are the 3 ends of our wefts. We're going to line them up as perfectly as we can, especially in terms of where the hair starts, not necessarily where the weft starts, because if you can see on this one, there's a little bit of overhang, and we can just end up snipping that off. So I'm also going to take a clip. I'm going to clip these together here so that they stay together. I'm going to tip this light down a bit too, and I don't think it needs to be as intense. If that's a little bit better, please let me know. Alright, so now it's time to start sewing. So we are just going to be whipping these together, and I might actually, there's 2 rows of stitching here. I wish that the computer would not have blue screen so you could see it better, but there is 2 rows of stitching there, and I'm going to try to go in between the 2 rows of stitching through each of the wefts. So this does take a little bit of time and patience, but I do think that it is worth it to do this kind of, I guess you could call it almost basting the wefts together. And we have to be careful. We can see that we're kind of pulling in some hairs with us, so we don't want that to happen, so I'm gonna pull these out of the way. They just kind of came loose when we cut the wefts apart. Alright, I'm pulling this thread through until I can see the end. I think this is the end here. I probably should have used a different color so I could see it a little bit better. And here I'm going to put a knot, a double knot if possible, if it will let me. I'm just going to tie this off. Okay, and I want to make sure that didn't do something silly like go around a clip or anything. Again, tying that tight. So this isn't, you know, how I really wanted this stream to go, but we are just kind of rolling with it right now. It's okay. So I've tied that together, and now I'm going to do a few like whip stitches down the length of this weft, which isn't terribly long, but it isn't exactly short either, so it might take us some time. I wonder if I can maybe just kind of go like this. Nope, I'm afraid we'll lose the phone there. Bear with us for a second here as I rearrange some things to try and get a little bit of a better camera angle, because I'm trying to figure out how exactly I would do that with this particular setup. Can I flip the camera around? Probably not. Alright, we're just going to set it like this, and hopefully you guys can see this pretty well. Alright, so again, we are sewing these wefts together. So I'm going to try to stay as open to the camera as I can, but let me know if you can't see, and I will try my best to accommodate that. I wish I could have had my chill lo-fi beats playing, but again, the computer decided that it does not want to participate in the stream anymore, so we're using the phone for today, just for that reason. I already got this hooked on the clip, but since we've got that first stitch in, I think we're okay to lose the clip. I hope that I'm not ignorant in saying that. And again, I am just whip stitching down this length of weft. And I see that it looks like it got like wrapped around here, so just gonna try to pull that off the top. There we go. And some hairs got in here, so I'm just pulling them out. So, you know, wig work may look like it's easy. It's like, oh yeah, you just sew some stuff together and it works. It's oftentimes a lot more complicated than that. As you can see, things don't always go as planned. You have all these teeny tiny little hairs in your way, and they look just like your thread too. So yeah, lots of things to keep in mind when doing wig work. So I'm just gonna kind of wrap that around my wrist so I don't lose it. And I'm going to skip a little bit of weft here and go a little farther down to make my next stitch. If I'm holding my hands strangely at all, it is just so that you guys can see a little bit better. Or at least that's what I am trying to do. So going in here, Looks like we pulled in the end or something funny happened. Again, we went around the edge here. It's apparently hard to avoid that for me. Okay. So it looks like we didn't quite go through all of the hair, so we're gonna go through another time. So I'm going through, here's the first one, the second one, and the third one. I want to make sure that they're all lined up there. Okay. And we've already got a knot. That's okay. As long as you don't pull on it too tightly, you should just be able to loosely kind of finagle your way out of that knot. Again, having the hair so close to the thread, it makes it just like really wants to tangle, because that hair is like, oh, I'm a thread, pick me up. I want to be a part of this too. Alright, so I'm just undoing a knot here in the thread, entirely of my own making, of course. There we go, we've got it out now. Here's the needle. We're going to just pick this back up and pull through. There we go. All right, I'm going to do this a few more times. Just so that we have this like really set there in place. Sorry, I bumped the camera. Did not mean to do that. And I'm just going to take a second here with my comb and just kind of pull these wispy little hairs out of the way that are trying to kind of get in there where they should be. Alright, so we're doing another stitch now. We're going to go a little bit farther down. I'd say about 1.5 inches down. Maybe this is 2 inches, something like that. Just wherever you feel is a good next place to go. So I'm just trying to keep all those little hairs out of the way this time a little bit better. You know, don't try to be absolutely perfect the first time around with doing something. You know, it takes practice. I had a mentor once who always said progress, not perfection, and I think that that is a good motto to live by. So don't get frustrated if things aren't going perfectly, because if you just keep at it, you'll eventually get better. Right? I'm just kind of fixing some hairs here best I can. Picking back up our sewing needle, and we're moving a little bit farther down. You can see we are about 1/4 of the way down the wefts, so we still have a ways to go. So yes, this may be a slightly more boring stream than normal, but if you feel like it, please say something in the chat. You can ask me any questions about wigs, or about anything in general, and I will try to answer best as I can while we are here just sewing these wefts together. So we will just pretend that we have some nice lo-fi beats playing, because that's what I like to play when I am streaming typically. Okay, holding these wefts tight while I go through a second time, and from my first few passes it seems like 3 times through is sufficient to hold these together / in place. Okay, so that's 3, so we're going to move down another 1 inch or 1.5 inches, as you would say. I'm not sure if you guys can tell, but now we have these little notches where we have sewn the wefts together. Looks like it's focusing like way back here, so I do apologize for that. I cannot change the focus on the phone, I don't think, while it's streaming, so I do apologize for that and for all of the inconveniences that have happened with tonight's stream. We are in the process of building me a new PC, so my old one, which is perfectly fine at streaming, will be coming into here, hopefully for Wig Work Wednesdays, or, you know, my whole computer setup will one day move into this room. Okay, and I think that's only been 2, so I'm gonna put just one more stitch in there and move down, so we are getting a little bit faster as we go. So yes, this is my first time doing this this particular way. Again, like I've said, I've inserted wefts by taking wigs apart and sewing them together. It's about the same process. I just wasn't using this many wefts at once. It was more so sewing like one weft that had 4 other wefts attached to it. So basically half a wig to half a wig. I'm not really sure we got caught on there. We got caught on something. Okay, and we've pulled through, going through a second time. I'm sorry, I took that way out of frame. And that's our second time, and we're going to go through one more time here. All right, we are past halfway. We are almost to the end. I think maybe 3 more segments, and then we can tie this off and start putting it into the wig. So, you know, this might be one of the most tedious parts of it. Yes, there is a lot of hand sewing, so if you are not a hand sewer, I suppose you can glue these in. I would use a combination of maybe tacky glue and hot glue. But the sewing, you know, the wigs they're sewn together, so they're kind of already as a little bit of a basis to support that construction method. But certainly things like hot glue and tacky glue do work really well for wig work. In another episode, I want to talk about glue in particular, and how you can make spikes in a wig, and how you can make kind of permanent stylings by using glue in wigs, because that is how you do it. Looks like we lost the third one here, so just gonna go right through there. Don't think that's where I wanted it to be. So now we are going to have to adapt and go with this farther location for our stitches because I missed last time. Okay, going through here. 1, 2. Come on. The third one does not want to take the needle at all for some reason. Okay. Going through all 3 again. At least now we've got it. Okay, and this is probably going to be the second to last one next. So we're moving down another about inch or inch and a half, excuse me. Going through all 3 here. Here's our second time through all 3. And our third, if we can get it through that middle section of the weft. Okay. So now we're going to be doing our last set of stitches here. I'm going to try to get close to the end as I can. Going through here. And a second time. And we're missing that third one again. It does not like us tonight. It's probably mad that we're not using the webcam and the computer and a nice setup. Okay. I'm just doing a few extra stitches here because this is the end. And this next one, I'm just going to make a knot. Okay. And one more knot. Okay. So now we're done with that section. So I'm going to cut this and leave a good tail because I don't want this to come undone. And I'm taking the needle and I'm putting it back into the box that it goes in. And I'm going to take a sip of Coke. And we're going back up with the camera, so bear with me. Rearranging here. Alright, so, and I need to tip this back again and raise it up. Whoop. Okay, so now we can kind of fit in the frame here. We're a little bit crooked, I'm sorry. Okay, so now I have these wefts sewn together, nice and beautiful. I'm going to comb through them now so that they are not tangled and to try and keep all those wispies out of our way. Okay, so this weft is, it's brand new. I've taken it out one time and I did comb through it then, so this should be relatively not tangled, detangled, I guess. But again, I'm just doing this to get the wispy, like, stray hairs out of here, and any possible knots. So there we go. We got a nice silky strand here. Okay, so what I'm gonna do next is I probably should have some straight pins ready. I don't know if I have any in here or not. My guess is going to be no, because straight pins seem to go missing the most for me for some reason. I don't know why I cannot keep tabs on them, but we will be fine. So what I'm gonna do now is I'm gonna turn up the brightness on my light a little bit so you guys can see me just a bit better, and we're going to start getting this onto the wig. So I'm gonna scoot this over just like that. Okay, there we go. You guys should be able to see this now, I think. And ideally I would pin this in place and then sew it, but like we said, I have no idea where my straight pins are. So we're gonna adapt, we're gonna improvise, and we're gonna use this same little bat hair clip. He's going to be very useful for us. So I'm just gonna line this up and I'm gonna pin it somewhere in the middle here where I think it should go, and making sure that it's long enough. Oh yes, and it is. It's about perfect. Alright, so when you sew wefts, typically I sew them inside out. I sew them with the wig inside out. So that's what we're going to do next, is we have this clipped in place, so we shouldn't lose it where it is. These are pinned where the weft needs to go around, except down here it's not really as clear, but we can certainly turn it right side back out and then go back to that. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to carefully take this wig off of the wig head. Still got this weft pinned in here, and I'm going to turn the wig inside out while trying to maintain that same position for those wefts. So now we can see here kind of all the little individual wefts on the wig, and we're going to be sewing to those if possible. And the big ones, like this right here, these big thick sections, when we have them. So now I'm going to do a similar thing. I have some repair kit thread. I'm going to take a pretty good length of it. I'm going to snip it. And get my needle ready. I need to cut the old thread off of here. With these super dull scissors that aren't doing the job for me, so I'm going to grab these newer, smaller ones. Okay, needle's free, thread is ready, and I'm going with black because that is the color of the base wig, so the black is not going to stand out if there is some way we part the hair and it gets exposed. Like it won't stand out. Okay, so this time what I'm going to do is I'm going to find the two ends of the thread and I'm going to knot them together. And I'm just doing this because I want this thread, which is pretty thin right now, to be twice as thick so that it is really holding those wefts in place. So I've done a single knot and now I'm trying to do like a double wrapped knot right on top of it. It didn't quite work, but 2 knots is better than 0. So we need to find now where this first weft goes to the front of the wig, which is about here, I believe. And oh boy, we're gonna start sewing. So we're gonna be hand sewing this into the wig, just following the path that we made earlier. So I'm going in through here and back up, making sure that I am catching those weft strands that we sewed together before. And I am gonna go through my doubly thick thread so that that knot kind of holds us in place. And I'm gonna whip through these wefts a few times, and I want to essentially go right back in where I came out, but I'm not that good at sewing. I wish I had a hooked needle, but I don't have one. So we're kind of just doing the best with what we can today. Or, I should say for this project, it is for cosplay mostly, but I might be able to use this for like visual K looks, possibly. Okay, so we've got this whole thing started, so I can see where the next weft is, and I am just going to, I'm going to sew the weft onto another weft, if that makes any sense. So I'm just kind of whipping around it similarly to what we did before. I think I'm going to do the 3 times again. And I just sewed it to another red weft. Okay, so I'm following that line that we've made with our bobby pins. I'm going to find the next spot that I want to sew to, which is this piece of elastic. Anything thicker than just a weft itself is really good to anchor to. Okay, here we have a little bit of a something funny happening here with our string, or one of the threads. There we go, got pulled tighter than another. Okay, so I've kind of fudged this one just a little bit. Okay, there we go, fix that, and we're already like almost at the end of this thread. So this will take a lot, especially if you want it to be really nice and secure to your wig. So again, I'm just really trying to follow this artificial part that we made for ourselves, while also following the wefts on the inside of the wig so that we have something to anchor them to. Okay. And in the future I might be doing more modifications to this wig because it is a little bit small for me, I noticed. The wig head is just, I'm sorry, this wig cap just is a little bit small for my head. I'm not really sure why, because I've actually never had an issue with Arda wigs before in their size. This is the first one I've found that has been small for me. Okay, now we should be about where the clip is, so I'm a little bit nervous about the next few stitches, so I'm just gonna let go of this very carefully. I'm gonna remove this back clip. I'm gonna put it down here and try to get through the hair so I can see along the lines of what I'm doing. And I'll show you guys here. You can see all those little red dots where we have sewn this weft to the wig. Okay, just picking back up our thread, I'm going to look for where this bat is, and that is kind of where we are aiming to go with the wefts. So this one here, you can see I've kind of come diagonally with it, and that's because that's part of that path we set artificially at the beginning. So we're just whipping through here a few times, heading towards this clip here. I'm sorry if this camera work is awful. When I do the other side, we might just do the other side next week, because everything here was kind of a train wreck today, but that's okay. You know, we're people and we're not perfect. So here is the next area. Maybe wear a thimble if you're like me and not good at not stabbing yourself, because that, my friends, hurts a lot. Stabbing yourself is no bueno. Okay, so I think here is about the end of my thread, so I'm just going through here like a few extra times, and I'm going to try to figure out how I'm gonna knot this exactly. I'm gonna go through these strands, I think, first. I might just have to kind of cut it and tie it by hand. Not entirely sure. But now we can take at least some of these bobby pins out and show you guys how this lays on the wig now that it's sewn in. So I'm about halfway done with this wig, putting this onto the wig. So here we go. We need to now that there's all this long hair on the wig, it wants to get in the way. Okay, so we're putting this back on our wig head, and oops, it's not exactly where it's supposed to be. There we go. So now you can see where we've sewn this hair in, which is really cool. I think that this looks like it's coming along really nicely. So I'm gonna have to do, some back combing to this hair and some teasing to get it to stick up like this, but we are making some progress. And so what I would do is just follow this all the way down the back of the head, and when I get to the bottom, I would trim any excess, and then I'll come back around to the top here, and where I have this little bit of overhang, I may flip this around and sew it so that we have hair kind of sticking out this way to hide the fact that it's different color, or I might tuck it into the wig. Time will tell what I decide to do when it comes to that part of the wig. So I'd like to thank everybody for sticking along with me this particular tutorial. Maybe next week I'll do the other side, and that way there is some more we have more time to prep the tech side of it so that things don't crash again. I'm not really sure why it keeps crashing on my laptop when we had all those weeks where it was fine. So thank you so much for sticking here with me through Wig Work Wednesday. I'm Kat, the Black Cat, on Twitch, and _Black Cat on Instagram. So give me a follow, and if you see this on YouTube, remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Bye! How do I not go? How do I end live? There we go. Okay. I don't think it worked.